I don't know.
It's different when I see it. But we are a part of Cookies.
First of all, I'm Cookies.
I really can't say
This
that.
is
I really
Cookies,
can't say that I'm Christ though. So
and you're watching Cookies.
and Christ, we need to practice a lot.
Was
But
that the Real Rascals Alfalfa Wave?
I do like that. But Cookies in Christ is a live Bible study that Morgan and I started. Actually, it's been a year. I look back. Has it been a year?
It's
Yeah,
been longer than a year.
it's been over a year, I believe,
The first
because it was before the pandemic. We were in this room and trying
But it
to
was
be next to
2
each other.
years ago because the pandemic has already been a year and a half.
Hmm.
So and it was in April actually, I recall because I
Yeah.
just recall things.
It was a while, but we basically started Bible studying together and thought that you guys would enjoy our take on our study. So this is our real feedback on just our raw um, studying of His Word. So it's not, we're not like clergy or anything like that. We're just two hearts after God. So we hope you enjoy this study. Today we are going through Genesis 46 through 50. I am the lead today, well, tonight. Um, one moment.
Every week, every week, if you right when we tune in, Kelly House phone will ring.
I'm back. I know we never use the house, but I don't want to unplug it. So, but so we switch off on weeks. So this week is mine, and we're doing 46 through 50. And what just happened was Joseph and his sons, well, his sons going to Egypt to meet with the son that they sold into slavery, which is Joseph. His brothers end up showing up at Egypt because there was a famine and they needed grain to survive. So Jacob sent them there, not knowing that Joseph was there. And Joseph kind of did this whole loop de loo and surprise, the brother is alive. And he actually helped his brothers, his family. Um, as we move forward, Jacob is moving his entire family into Egypt. After having this conversation with God, he feels way more secure in committing this act because he didn't want to leave Canaan. But God said that, like, I am God. That was really sounding like I am Groot, but it said, I am God. And don't be afraid, for I will make your family into a great nation, as he's been saying over and over, and I will go with you. So I thought that was really neat. But we will get into like the breakdown of how I felt about it after this like synopsis. So the entire family goes to Egypt. When they arrive, he Jacob and Joseph embrace each other. They're really, I mean, he thought his son was dead, so they're really extra and all into seeing each other. And then Joseph tells his siblings and his father that they have to tell the Pharaoh that they are shepherds, so that they will have a separate plot of land in Egypt away from the Egyptians. And that works. And so they have the best land and they go forth. And Joseph, well, Jacob, I keep forgetting, Jacob, the father, Jacob is the father, blesses each of his sons as he dies. Well, actually, he blesses Joseph's sons, his two sons, and he does this in the same manner that happened with him and his brother, where it's like the oldest is what you would think is blessed, but God informed him to bless the younger brother to go forth and do some wonderful things. Not saying that the oldest one will not be so. Um, what happened after that? I'm trying to read through my notes quickly so we can go back and recap. Um, then Jacob explains that he does not want to be buried in Egypt. He doesn't want to be buried in the sands of Egypt. He wants to be buried in Canaan. When he has his last words, he goes through and reads each of his sons. And they have done some of them have done some terrible things. Sound effects. Some of them have done some not so good things. So he does not have the best things to say to them. Dinah is not even mentioned in this. And I made a note of that when they went through like the lineage. There is no mention of daughters at all. It's just a whole bunch of sons, but I'm sure they had daughters. Um, when Jacob got there, I noticed that he sent Judah ahead. I would like to get into that as well, because Judah is not the oldest, Reuben is. But again, there goes the things of what Reuben did to probably knock himself down in the line. And then we get into Jacob's death and burial, and all of the weeds of how he wanted to be buried and where he wanted to be buried and what he says to his sons. And how his after his death, or after realizing that his father's really sick, and the brothers start to worry, because again they sold their brother into slavery, but now their brother is this top-notch dude, and they really don't want him to rain down on them. So they become fearful, because they think that Joseph is only nice to them because of Jacob. So if Jacob is gone, woe is us type of situation. Um, and then Joseph really, calms them and lets them know it's not like that. I'm really not, holding any grudges type of thing. And so they feel more at ease with that. I did notice, like, it's Esau isn't there for his brother's death. But who knows? We just never hear about Esau ever again. And then finally in Genesis 50, there is the death of Joseph at the age of 110. Um, and his sons are, there around him and things like that. So that's before we get into the next book, which in our Bible is Job. But that is in a nutshell. And I left out a lot, but I wanted to just carry on through. I have my notes, but I just wanted to say this is what basically happened. But we can go through each of the things and what my notes say. I'm in Genesis 46, and I thought it was wonderful that God told him that he would be with him, and go with him. Um, we want to feel like that. We want to feel like every move we make, everything that we do, we're in line with what God has for us, knowing that if you're in line with God, then he's there. You're walking in your purpose, then you're doing the right thing. And God will protect you. To know when, you're not necessarily when, but it's almost like God is telling him when he's going to die, to know that you will go there and you will die, like God telling him that, and that he will return, and you won't, have to stay in Egypt. I thought that was really heavy, because we don't, to live knowing that you are almost at the end has to be a different type of living to me. So he probably had a whole different set of mindset and purpose, knowing that, I'm not going to necessarily live much longer. Um, Knowing 110 is a long time, but not compared to how long other people other people have lived in the Bible for much longer. Um, when we get into Jacob's entire family in 46:10, and he lists a lot of sons. Like I said, I noticed that it was like only men. Like they really didn't. I don't know if it was like they didn't keep up with the birth of women, or it just wasn't custom to have them listed in this manner. But it does say in addition to their daughter Dinah, but we don't hear that, like, past that. Like, everybody's having sons, but I'm thinking people definitely had daughters, um, and wives and such. Like I said, in 46:28, Jacob sent Judah ahead to meet Joseph, and I said, why Judah? And I started thinking, because I knew Reuben was the oldest, but there was Reuben, there is Simeon, and there is Levi, and then there's Judah. And usually a lot of things happen based on the timeline in which you were born, as far as like you being the importance of what you are doing. So for him to go ahead and meet Joseph, uh, him being Judah, I had to remember that Reuben kind of really messed up. Reuben slept with Jacob's wife. And then I had to remember that Simeon and Levi, I said, went on this whole massacre in the honor of Dinah, when she was raped, and they just went through the town and was just killing a whole bunch of men. Not just in her honor, but for their own personal gain as well. So those things I think may have knocked them down. And then, but I said that note before I read him reading them in Genesis 49. Um, I made a note on how they listened to Jacob this time. He had been saying about his dreams and who he was going to be. Him in this season, he advised them to say that they are shepherds when they meet. He told them exactly what to say. We are your servants, our shepherds, just like our ancestors. We have come to live here in Egypt for a while. And he basically said, they said exactly what he told them to say. And I said, finally, they listened. And everything happened the way it was supposed to, as far as them getting the best land of Egypt. So I talked about how I said Joseph's dreams came true, and it was a blessing for his family. And I thought that was interesting that they almost literally killed their blessing. Um, and that was very interesting how everything just came around. And hopefully that's something that we all can learn from that as well. You're trying to take out someone else or do something, commit some kind of ill will towards somebody else, not knowing that that very thing could be what blesses you. Um, the part in Joseph leadership with the famine, um, I didn't know if it just wasn't planned very well, but for people to, what happened was people started to run out of trade. So they didn't have any more money for grain. And so he said, give me your livestock. Okay, so now, like, they had goats, flocks of sheep, herd, cattle, horses, all of that for grain. And I did read that grain was like very, very important. There's so many things you can do with grain. Um, they traded all of that for grain to survive, and they were left with nothing, to the point where they had to then sell themselves to Pharaoh in order to survive. Thus, everyone in the land of Egypt pretty much became a slave, which we will learn how that goes later on. Next is Job, but after Job is Exodus. It doesn't. It's a whole thing. Um, but I thought it was interesting that they were. It was what they thought they had to do in order to survive, and what they thought they had to do in order to live. And I was just thinking about the responsibility of an owner is to take care of the slaves and not commit ill will towards them. Sometimes when we think of slaves, we think of like the harshness, but they don't speak of that yet. But I have read beyond, and some harsh things do end up happening. But I also read that when people in America were slaves and they were freed, that a lot of them wanted to become slaves again, because to have to fend for yourself was a big deal, and to not have those skills of being able to fend for yourself, you kind of relied on the owner to kind of take care of you. And so they're really relying on Pharaoh to, like, now I don't have to worry about having enough money for grain. Pharaoh is supposed to feed me. But it comes definitely at a cost. So I had the question of like, what I had to question myself, like, would that be what I did if I ran out of goods to trade with? Would I trade me? Like, or do you just take the death that was, I guess, upon you? That was, what would you do, Morgan? Like, would you be like, oh, in this time of need, I have nothing else, I might as well be a slave? Or would you have tried to move? Or you would have just taken the sentence of, it wasn't meant to be, I'm going with my father?
I know what my status was in life. Like, where was I? Did I have a whole family? Was it just me? Like,
Pretty much probably your whole family though. Like it
what
was
I'm saying, like, there's levels. And I think I would just try to think like that would be the determining factor. I can't just say, oh, I'll be a slave and then sentence my whole family to a life of slavery. But if it was just me, like, I'll make that decision for me. Or, you know, I'd have been like, me knowing me and how I am now, like when that first famine hit and I went in for my, all right, I'm about to just go get my stimulus. When my first stimmy hit, I'm gonna try to invest.
brain.
I'm gonna invest it properly. When I first get my first grain stimmy, I'm gonna be like, all right, y'all, all right.
I was thinking, so how, I don't know how long it was. Was it long enough where they could have taken some grain for themselves and like planted it? Like could they have
Well, so, but that's,
harvested it
because if you think about
themselves?
it, the land, if we go back to like the dreams, the land wasn't producing. So I'm sure they were planting, it just wasn't producing. And
Okay. So land wasn't good enough anymore. So it was no alternative.
But so Joseph knew how long the famine was going to last. And that's my thought is if Joseph knew how long the famine was going to last, he told Pharaoh, but did he tell the rest of the people? Because if I'm Joseph and I know, and if I do tell, if somebody tell me, oh, this is about to be a famine, it's about to be 7 years, I'm going to, my first trip up, because I don't know when I'll make a second trip, because, Joe, I mean, his whole family came from travels away. So if I'm taking this long journey, I'm going to take enough for a good amount of time, like not just a 3 month stimmy, you know. Or if I did take enough for that 3 month stimmy, I'm taking that 3 month stimmy and then we going somewhere else. I don't know how far out the famine
It
really
seemed
is.
like it was far, but I would think along the lines of what you're saying too. But like on a greater level, like if you would have told me, me myself, I could have prepared also.
Exactly.
Then I wouldn't
I
have
don't think
been
they told
behind.
anybody.
So I
But
definitely
if
said,
you,
could they have planned better as a nation? That was my question. And if you guys want to know where we are, it's Genesis 47:16, like around that area, or 47:13 to 26 is where I wrote, could they have planned better as a nation? Like, why?
all right, but so they probably could have, but if I'm thinking like how Pharaoh used to be, I mean, he was all right, but he wasn't like this jolly old person. So like if I'm Pharaoh and I know they gonna need this grain, I'm gonna make sure my stock is well kept. That's how I am getting people to come and pay, and I am getting people to give me their livestock, and I am getting people to, be my slaves. Like it's business. That's good business if I do know. So my
So
question,
you think the
my
ill will?
question is, if you have knowledge, privy knowledge, that there's about to be some hard times, and like the gas things, we good over here. But how far would you spread the good word?
No, so that's what I was saying. So so a lot of that depends. Everybody don't know Joseph to know that he had God's favor to say, oh, this dude that I don't know in Egypt, in the land that I'm not in, said in 7 years it's gonna happen. You know how much can happen in 7 years? So I guess either you plan to move to Europe or Europe. You plan to move or you plan, for what's coming. But to not plan at all, like maybe the word they get around and a whole bunch of was like the Noah story. Eh, I don't believe the flood is coming. It ain't rain in 6 years. So maybe they didn't believe him. I don't know if he told people. I don't want to think it was Joseph's heart to withhold information so that people will become slaves. But that is a nice come up for somebody like Pharaoh who probably could foresee something like that because it had a big economic shift on his land. Like it changed everything, but I just don't understand that. Like that is a lot to take care of too. Yes, they working for free, but you really have to you have to change a lot in order for that. Like I don't know. I just want to see people live in peace, but I would have tried to help them make their own way. You don't want to have a nation of people that rely only like they're not self-sustaining at all. Like I would want people to be happy and under me and stuff. So I don't know if it's a lack of planning or this was just some crucial planning.
There goes
But
the word.
yeah, so that happened, and then I wrote, would you do it? It says, you have saved our lives. May it please you, my Lord, lowercase l, to let us be Pharaoh's servants. Like they willingly thank God that this is the greatest thing for us because we won't survive without this cause. And it's like every time they were to take some grain, they would have this, you know, over their head as what they owe. Um, and that was a lot. um, why did I have just like his dad Isaac? Oh, and Jacob said, "Put your hand under my thigh and swear to me," just like the blessing that happened with his dad. That's just how they was blessing with the hand under the thigh. If you, that's what my little. um, then my question was, where is Esau? And I mentioned that already. This is his brother. Jacob is his brother, his little brother. That that it, honestly, Jacob kind of ditched him. So I don't know if he was just like, all right, I guess we just done. Um, and that's why he didn't come to see his brother, or maybe he already perished. I did like in 48:5,
When
huh?
people say perish in terms of a person, like I think of perish, like oh he's spoiled, like because food perishes, like it's a perishable.
He passed away. All
Yeah.
right. So in 48:5, I talked about the blessing of grandchildren, how Jacob is talking to Joseph about Joseph's two sons. And he's saying, I now claim them as my own two boys. Um, and I thought about my parents and how I'm an only child, and they kind of just skipped over me and was like, yeah, everything I thought was coming to me, they said it's gonna come to my kids. But that made me think about the blessings that grandparents give to their grandchildren, and I thought that was really nice. But I did write the address to the house in the Bible because maybe God will see this, and maybe it will still come my way. But my children will be blessed. Um, I put "Won't He Do It" at 11 when Jacob was like, I never thought I would see your face again. I can't imagine how I would feel. I saw like a whole bunch of Lifetime movies about kids getting snatched and they live like right next door, but the parents didn't know and they finally get to see their child. And it's this big deal when you thought somebody was gone. I was about to say they perished. When you thought somebody was gone and they really aren't, like it's I can imagine it's an overwhelming feeling, especially if it's your child who you thought was gone and they are now here. But he was like, not only do I get to see your face, but I get to see your children. And it was like, I put amen, won't he do it? I thought that was wonderful. um then I said the same switch because when Jacob was blessing the sons, he put his right hand over the youngest child, which I believe is how you would bless somebody. And he put his left hand over the oldest child, and Joseph tried to switch them like, no, nah, that's not right. This is how it goes. And he was like, no, this is basically what the Lord said. So glad that he is still listening to God. um and it'd be interesting how these two sons go. um I write in the crease, so I gotta lean. Oh, then Genesis 49, I was like, if this ain't T. It's like, oh my goodness. So if you had not, or if you forgot, again, Reuben, so he called all his sons together to gather around him to tell them what would happen to each of them in the days to come. And he went and started with Reuben because that's his first baby boy. And this is Jacob speaking to his sons. And he said, Reuben, you're my firstborn, my strength, the child of my vigorous youth. You are the first in rank, and first in power. But, and then it goes downhill from there. And it's because of what Reuben did with his wife. He said, you defiled my marriage couch when he slept with his wife. He slept with his father's wife. And Simeon and Levi, he called them weapons and instruments of violence. Um, and how he never wanted to join any union with them, and how um, they're full of anger and stuff. Um, so I said over women and impulse. Well, a woman and impulse, like to lose it all. And by all, I mean your inheritance, your blessing, your future, because you couldn't control your urge to be with someone who you were never meant to be with. And to go and kill a whole bunch of people for a cause that you weren't standing up rightly so for. Um, it's a lot. Like they lost a lot. To me, they lost a lot from what their father wanted to give to them, but he turned his head to them. And then it goes to Judah, who's next in line. But Judah is not spanking clean. I guess this is just how he feels about the sin that these three particular sons did. Because when he gets to Judah, he tells them how, and I believe Judah changed his character and his ways, and that played a part in how Jacob saw him. And then again, I don't hear anything about Dinah, but again, that could be culture. I'm just going to assume it's culture that you just That's just you're blessing the sons, or you're telling them about themselves. Um, and then it goes in to just say these are the 12 tribes of Israel. Israel as in Jacob, which in this particular text they don't call him Israel a lot. You have to keep remembering that that's him. That's what God renamed him after their wrestling. Um, and for the death, 49, which is Genesis 49. Um, I don't have much notes except for in Genesis. Well, actually, my notes don't go into Genesis 50, where I just was like, you wrong when, like, after it's all said and done, you're still afraid. As in, Joseph's brothers are like, now that dad is about to die, surely Joseph is going to show his true colors and be mad at us and try to, cause us harm. Um, and I said for 50-20, it says, you intended to harm me, but God intended it for my good. And I remember the song, All Things Are Working for Your Good. And hopefully that's something that he leaned on in those times of being incarcerated and in jail and being harshly treated. Um, Hopefully he was leaning on that. Um, and that will be all of my. Oh, I have showing faith even at death. And this is for, I believe, Jacob. Um, his desire to be buried in a place, knowing that that's what God said to him. So that is all. What notes do you have, Morgan?
I have a side note later. But my notes going back to 46:3, I liked from there I got like new beginnings. And so when God told Jacob to basically leave the home that he had built for his family and go to Egypt. And it was just like for me, it rang true because like sometimes I do think about moving to a new place. And I think a lot of us will probably move somewhere, but we're often held up back by fear. Like, what's it gonna be like? Am I gonna be able to make it? Well, you get a good community or whatever, and how fear can be very, very paralyzing. Even when you hear something from God, even when God tells you to move, sometimes you're afraid. Um, and not that you're afraid because you don't think God is with you or that God told you, but it's just a human. The unknown can be scary and paralyzing. So I like that that reminder was there that, God, if God told you to do something, he's going to be there with you and it's going to be all good. But I also feel like Jacob, Jacob being
I
able
messed them up over and over again. Then they threw Judah in there, and I was like, Judah, Joseph, Jacob.
I also think Jacob being able to take his whole family with him lessened the blow. All right, so like it's different when you move into a new state or a new country completely solo dolo and you don't have a support system at all. He had his whole squad with him. One band, one sound. If this go left, y'all all here with me. Not, all right, y'all, I gotta go. Hope y'all good. So like that stress of, oh, I'm in a new place, I gotta make it work, and I hope people back home doing okay.
That's what I thought about with the. This is far, far into the Bible, but when the disciples were called and like having to leave their family, I was like, wow, that's different.
Um,
That's cool. But go ahead.
my other notes, I said that I couldn't imagine like all the emotions that Jacob and Joseph felt seeing each other for the first time after so many years had passed. Especially like when you was the favorite. But yeah, like I can't even imagine. I don't think so. Joseph, maybe he just thought at one point in time, oh, my father's probably close to death by now, and he's passed, and maybe that was a thought in the back of his mind. But for Jacob, the clearly the thought was my son is dead, and so to know that he is not dead is one thing, and then just all the catching up that they had to do, like that's pretty cool. Um, I did have a note here, random question. I didn't write which chapter it came from or which scripture it came from, but it was like, how come in some of the dreams the people say God told them X, Y, and Z, but then other people needed interpreters? And I can't remember where I got that from, but
You mean like how God spoke to Jacob but God gave Pharaoh a dream that needed
Yeah,
interpretation.
yeah. So it's like
Maybe it's about relationship.
maybe I was like, cause clearly Pharaoh knew that God was telling him something, but he needed an interpreter versus someone like, oh, God said this. Move. So I had that note. And then my other note was several times in the text, they refer to God as like God of your father or God of this person. But we all know that God is everyone's God, especially if they in the same family or no. And so I tried to like really do research and like the Egyptians, like what God were they worshiping ahead of time besides Joseph's God, our God.
That's, I mean, and I think we talked about that when we talked about it's like placing some familiar, like being familiar with it. Um my I don't have any siblings, but my parents do, and they always say your mom, and I'm like, ain't that your mother? But they always say your mom, and not in the ill will, like how some parents be like your son. It's not like that. They say, hey, your mom said, and it's weird. I can't get it because again, I don't have any siblings to really be able to understand why somebody would say your if we share that person. Um, but I noticed that, but I know that they have the same God. It's just maybe a reference of making sure that the person they talking to know they got the same God. I don't know.
I have a note for Genesis 47, 29 to 31, talking about, well, basically that whole section that, I mean, we all know that Jacob had buku sons, but um, Joseph was still, even after all that time, it was like they picked up where they left off. And Joseph was the one that he chose to swear to take him home after he passed. Like he knew the character of all of his sons.
God
And,
told him.
huh?
God told him Joseph was going to do it too.
Yeah. And I wrote that just like Jacob knew the hearts of all his children, God knows our hearts. Um then I had a note. It's like, how can Jacob just take my man's kids?
He didn't take them.
No,
I thought he like took them like in his bosom.
no.
Like
He said, these are now my sons. Anything else you can claim, but these are mine. And so if you look at the breakdown or the interpretation that I read it, because I read this multiple times, it was these are now my two sons. I'm guessing. I mean, he got rid of three in his will, so he had extra space.
didn't get rid of
He
them.
had
He said just no, but he said just as Reuben and Simeon are.
exactly. Okay. Well, yeah. These my exactly. These the fruit of my looms, not yours. These my looms, and any future joints, they yours though. Okay. Like that's basically what he said. But
I didn't take it like
I took it like that. I took it like these is my sons. Like they can call you daddy, but I'm their pappy because I'm about to die. But these my sons. These are my sons because
I think like he was gonna bless them that way.
I'm pretty sure the rest of the sons had children by this time.
But these are Joseph's children.
Exactly. So he took those children as his own. Like, yeah, because all right, you're an only child, but if you did have a sibling, your parents may be like, all right, I'm splitting this amongst the grandchildren. To just say, all right, he had 11. I have 11 sons, but only these grandchildren getting some of the pie, like that doesn't make sense. These grandchildren getting the pie because
So he basically kind of bumped them up a generation.
yeah, as his sons. These my sons, not your sons.
I would have just took it as he bumping them up.
Yeah,
I would have been like, oh, he trying to claim my children and take
like
them from
now
me.
you my son brother. Anyway, I was like, I wrote in the comments, I was like, man, now they fatherless. I gotta go talk to my wife about this, pops. um, the next part, when he was doing the blessings, and then I was like, sometimes a lot of us, as we age, we are guilty of correcting our parents or thinking that we know best. And it goes hand in hand with, like, I told you I was doing like the Proverbs study, and there was a section that talks about still going to your parents for advice and counsel because they've lived longer than us and may be able to sprinkle some, wisdom into different situations that we think. But the nature of getting, like, you raise your children to be able to sustain on their own. However, children also take aging as I know it all. So correcting our parents or thinking that we know best, or like we know better than God based off of how we believe things are supposed to be. But sometimes you can call an audible. That's football terminology. Whoop, whoop. So also, I found it interesting that Jacob was trying to switch it up. He was the younger sibling at one time, and knows how God can choose to bless the younger one over or more so than the older one. I mean, he was living testimony to that. So, wow.
It's interesting how it
Yeah.
keeps happening. It's almost like we're not doing that no more.
Yes. Okay, so why would he
This is
question
what we
that?
doing all the time.
Yeah, why would he question that for his sons? And I mean, it goes back into like some of the traditions that we hold and ideologies that we were raised upon, but how some, I mean, they can change, they can matter. Like, that's not working no more. Let's do something else. Because that ain't working.
Who's qualified? Who's called? God called that child, so that's the child.
So
Have you ever seen somebody called Junior, but they weren't born first? Like they're not the first boys. Like at that time, that's when his father was like, "I now want a Junior." I've seen that multiple times. It's
I
like the third. This boy, he's the third son, and he's the junior. I was like, "What happened to the other two?" Huh?
they all got the same parent.
Mhm. They just decided in the third son that that was going to be the junior. I guess he was like not wanting a junior, not wanting to call someone after himself, and then decided might as well. I guess I don't know how that happened, but odd.
True. I have again that Jacob was paying attention and that he knew his sons and made the final his last words accordingly. And I thought about, how they say when old people age and they realize they close to death, how they just say whatever they want to say.
That's gonna be me.
Keep it a book.
I'm gonna read my heart.
Um, and so I thought that was interesting that, he never forgot, even though it doesn't say that he ever treated his sons poorly or anything like that. And then when you were saying your summary, something that kind of came up for me was that he called Reuben the fruit of like his young and wild days. Each of his sons that were born through those transition phases of his life are a reflection of where he was in his life. He was still kind of like that swindler and that new coming out of that, phase of his life when he got that girl pregnant and it had Reuben. And I'm pretty sure
That girl, his wife,
he ain't want to marry her.
but they were married.
Exactly. And when who was it, Levi,
And Leah was the mother of the most of them, and then it was
and then the other two, like, I'm pretty sure he was mad. I got two sisters here going back and forth. I got the midwives going. Like, that's a lot of anguish. Yeah, them sons is angry. Like, it literally.
that household had to be up.
So, and then you get to Joseph, and Joseph and Benjamin were clearly made out of love. Like, this is something that he wanted for so long. And you know what I'm saying? Like, it was a different phase in his life when he finally got those littles. Because number one, he was older, so his relationship with God had become stronger, and he had started to change his ways. And number two, it was with the woman that he always wanted these things with. So I just thought that it was kind of like, unfortunately for those sons, a generational curse or like a physical manifestation of the different battles that Jacob had dealt with throughout his life. Um, and then I had a note about the funeral process: 40 days to embalm and then 70 days to mourn as Egyptians. That's a long time. That's a really long time. And let me see what this is.
I didn't. I read about a period to mourn, and I was like, wow, like, do you really just have to like cut it off? Because that's kind of harsh. Like you can't tell. You can tell. I guess you can't tell somebody. when the time has come for you to like really release and let that go, and move forward. But I guess it's a way of being healthy also, because you can't sit there and mourn forever.
That don't even sense. Oh, okay. I'm at the wrong. Like that don't make sense. That's not what that said. All right. My last note was Genesis 50:19 when his brothers was freaking out and was like, "Oh, he about to snap." And he was like, "Look."
Look, we are your slaves.
Now he was like, "Am I God?" Like, I know I told y'all was gonna bow down, but I ain't the big man. I done told y'all like I can't do nothing to y'all. He already gonna get you. It's cool. But he was just like, I can't punish you. I'm gonna leave that to him. Literally, he got me. So it's whatever. I ain't worried. Y'all
It
good.
takes a lot to do that though. It really does. And I mean, that to me showed how much they knew they messed up. Oh, you messed up. Like,
Yeah. And I also feel
you
like, I don't know, maybe I missed it. But did they have like a giant fiesta and really tell Jacob what they did to Joseph? Did it ever come out, or did they
I
let
don't
it die
know.
with their father? Because
I think they would have. I think he would have killed them. Like,
because
I don't
like
think they told him. I don't
surely
remember reading that.
that's I was like, surely, I mean, they just going, family secret.
Like, let's just
Just
let him die in peace, shall we? Like, why we gotta say all that? Why he gonna die early if we say that? Like, it's just. I think they just was like, let's just let that be.
but
They
ultimately that was
probably was
up
like,
to
let's
Jacob.
don't even bring
That
it
was
up.
up to
Maybe
Joseph.
Joseph forgot.
But that was up to Joseph though. Joseph could have been like, "Oh, pops, come to my house for dinner."
I no, because I'd have been like, so
What you
ravenous
what
wolves, what happened?
you
Because your coochie, when they gave me your coochie sweater,
exactly.
it was
You're
full of
gonna be
blood.
like, they bought me your stuff, and I was so worried, blah, blah, blah. And you were just like, "Oh, you want some more grain?" Like, how do you change the subject on that and not lie?
Or he didn't care because again, when you think your child is dead and then years later you see their face, I don't care how you got here, you here. I guess it was like, let's not even talk about the past. And
Maybe
I know
after
his
the
brothers was
initial,
like,
maybe after the initial, like, yes, we're back together. But they was, I'm gonna say, for a couple years, he was definitely gonna ask. All right, I gotta know. Like,
and how did you become this high up too?
yes, like, tell me what have you been doing since the last time I saw you? Like, that's a natural conversation. I feel like, um,
That happened offline, and that's probably why he still laid down this hammer to all of them on 49. But I mean, it took all of them. All of them sold him, but
I mean, yeah, they did, but it was really I feel like none of them stood up against it, but it was really one person's idea.
was it Simeon
It
that
was
was like,
Judah,
huh?
wasn't it Judah?
I thought it was Simeon who was like, let's do this, and Reuben tried to stop it, but I thought it was Simeon.
Simeon and Levi was probably like, I thought they were like, let's kill him, and then he was
Yeah,
like,
that sounds more like them though.
they said, let's kill him, and Reuben was like, nah, let's just dump him in this junk. It's less messy. And then he was going to double back. And Judah was like, man, even better.
Hold on. I got it. I wanna know. Hold on. Joseph.
So
Joseph put it. Okay. I said, oh, that's sold into slavery. Joseph is sold into slavery. I'm in 37. I don't know who's.
I just have that. I have my notes on it. It is in 37. Yeah. So
Yeah, you and Judah.
yeah, it was Judah.
26. Judah said, what will we gain by hold on. Yeah, Judah said, let's sell him instead of killing him.
Yeah,
Because
it was Judah.
who said let's kill him? That do sound like Simeon and
If you
Levi.
go to the front,
They was ruthless.
it doesn't say, it just says when his brothers saw him coming, they made plans to kill him. We know who it was.
Them two brothers.
We know who it was.
Yeah, when you said that, it sounded about right. I was like, that sound like them. But yeah, so I don't know. All in all, from what you are asking, I don't know if Jacob knew that, but I can't imagine that he didn't get a little scent of some wrongdoing happening to his
And
son.
you see them Jones sweating as they was getting close to the gates of Egypt on that camel, like
And if
oh,
he go near and dear to Ben and holding Ben all tighter. Poor Ben, I don't know what kind of life Ben had after
it was
Joseph was
like,
gone. Joseph already had it hard, like trying to like be outside, and he was like, "Nah, stay in." I know Benjamin ain't never see the day of light, and you can't hang out with your brothers.
yeah.
So
But that's it, basically. Oh, and then
okay,
I had a note about how I hope that I have somebody in my inner circle that will carry out my last words and elaborate details of how I would like to celebrate my
we
parents.
talked about that. I do it. No, I said I didn't want to be
You did say that.
here. You had to find somebody else. But I said I thought that also, like, man, he was able to tell them what he wanted, and I wonder if everybody respects people's last wishes like that.
No.
Probably not. Like he was like where he wanted to. What was it in the cave? It was a cave, right?
Yeah, the same cave that Abraham made to bury Sarah.
Mhm. Yeah, that's beautiful. All right. So, any last before we get into what we're supposed to do next month?
Guess we can just sum up our thoughts on Joseph because this is his ending. What you think about it? Like, what were your major pulls
Jacob?
from the Joseph story? I got your major. What
You
were your
mean
major?
Joseph's story or Jacob's story?
I mean, we could if you want to combine the two, but I feel like this section we did Jacob all right. This section is about Joseph. But if you want to do both, go ahead.
I think it's a wonderful story, especially for somebody who, if you are feeling down, like God couldn't possibly bring me out of this. This is a story right here. Like rags to riches for real type of situation. To be hated on by your whole family and nobody really be in your corner. And the one person who was kind of powerless and left out of the loop when stuff was going wrong. I would say that it's an inspiring story to me. And to know that God was there with him the whole time. Um, for those of us who boast, like boastful, and want to brag about how God has blessed us and he ain't done with us yet. But sometimes we gotta go backwards to go forward or fall before we can get back up type of thing. Um, I thought it was good. I learned a lot from Joseph's story. And that's the best way to learn because I ain't trying to go through nothing he went through. And for you to be like, oh, I want what somebody has. Do you know what they went through to get it? Like that was a lot for him to go through to be at the position that he was. Everybody can't do it. Everybody won't make it out the same way. So I thought it was very inspiring and very powerful. The betrayal to know that somebody who was, or some people who was so close, who was supposed to be so close to you, did such a thing, and it continued to be put down, like with the Pharaoh's wife. Like it was a lot. The man went through a lot, and to see him come out on top, it was just. I thought it was wonderful. I'm glad it, ended the way it did, and the reunion. It was beautiful, beautiful, like written by God, beautiful. How did you feel about it?
I like that. I feel like the biggest thing I pulled from Joseph's story was just like faith, and just the importance of strengthening your faith muscle because like I don't, and I guess I can attribute it or tie it into Jacob's teachings or raising Joseph in the way of the Lord, that he even from such a young age had that type of faith and knowing that okay, even though all these bad things are happening, we never really saw his faith in God wane, like in the pits of everything, but he was always ready. He was always ready. Like I don't know when it's gonna be my day. Today might be my day. Next year might be my day.
When the guy was like, "Oh, I'm gonna remember you," Forgot 2 more years.
Yeah, like he just never lost faith. So I feel like that is just like the greatest lesson is just I don't want to say be like Jacob because of course I mean not be like Jacob, be like Joseph. And even I think there's something to say even from the entire story of Genesis, we can definitely say that God made use of imperfect people and people who weren't, just like the straight and narrow and who messed up and who did some crazy things. Um, so we could see that as a young boy, Joseph was a little boastful, blah blah blah. He didn't have tact. He didn't have that je ne sais quoi. But he still had faith. And when things got tough and went worse and worser, he still had faith. And I just feel like a lot of, like you said, a lot of us aren't built from that cloth. I feel like me personally, probably after the wife didn't accuse me of rape, I definitely would have been like, all right, Lord, what's
Just take me now.
what's good? I've already been sold into slavery. I'm being the best slave I can be. And I'm saying no to this man's wife, you know. And look,
It was a lot. It was a
yes,
lot.
I definitely feel like, but we don't ever see like jumping ahead, but we'll definitely see somebody who be having some one on ones with God, be like, "Yo, what's
That's
good?"
how I was saying.
Yeah, Job was opposite.
Different. But
Joseph never had
his
that. Well, we won't say he never had that moment, but it's never discussed that Joseph questioned anything that
yeah,
happened in his life. Um,
Job kirked out.
yeah.
It was a
So
whole
I love
different
that
thing.
about Joseph. And next week, as we have talked about, Kelly can put it up. Not next week, next month. Um, Kelly can put it up. We will get into the story of Job, and we'll see a complete opposite um reaction.
Opposite, because Job, the reason why Job was picked, which is very, oh my goodness, Morgan is going to do this wonderful, like you have to watch. Like, this is the first time I've seen you get a peek into like what's going on in like heaven and stuff. Like, I'm just really interested in the beginning of Job and like, oh my goodness. So I'm excited about that. But before we talk about it, because I'm going to put it up, but I just noticed like this is really the end of Genesis. Like, I was so excited when I finished Genesis, and I want to inspire somebody just in case you either went on this journey with us or you didn't. You're trying to catch up, or whatever the case may be. It took me like a year to study Genesis. Like, the way you're seeing it now, that's not the way I studied it. These notes been in here. Some ink is fresh, some highlighting strokes are fresh, but I like really sat in Genesis for a long time. And it's not just because, oh, she was deep in the word. Sometimes I fell off and I came back on and things like that, but it felt good to get through Genesis. And Genesis was what our Bible calls it, and like the beginnings, like God's chosen family. And I thought that was such a great way, like, to get you in, because you do think, some people do think, oh, in the Bible it's all these perfect people and they're doing perfect things and nothing is happening, nothing's wrong, and Lucifer is the big bad wolf and everybody else is perfect. And that is not the case. And to me, that's inspiring, because it means that God can use me, and I too can change and grow from a lot of stuff. So I just wanted to point out that we wrapped up Genesis, and we've been doing this for a long time. And like, it just feels good to, like, I might show, I think I already actually, I think I already have a flip through of my notes in Genesis. Um, but maybe I'll do another one. I don't know. I'll do a flip through, you see me, of my Bible.
Man, y'all, I talked to Kelly on Monday. She thought we was in Exodus.
I was excited, y'all. I was like, Morgan, oh my goodness, are we in Exodus? We finally arrived with my study notes stop, and I can really, really like start my in-depth Bible study. And she was like, we ain't even buried Jacob yet. I said, nah, Jacob been buried. She was like, no, we didn't. I was like, oh man. When I saw Job, I knew we didn't touch on Job, because I know good and well, like, this first part of Job, I'd have been like, oh, okay. So I was still excited, because then I noticed that we were ending Genesis, like we have done something. But yeah, I don't think you were supposed to share that.
What? To let people
You
know.
was like, there go
Kelly
my
was so excited to get through the Bible, y'all.
It's like we did all of that, and this is the part that we have read. This is what we got left.
But
It's like
that's still a big chunk. Like no
yeah,
lie.
it is. I would say it is, and I'm inspired because it's like I don't have a time frame. I'm not sitting here saying I want to read. I think that's a lot of pressure to say I want to read the Bible in a year. You can do it. I want to read the Bible and understand it. And if it takes me 10 years to get through this and we like on episode 1388 of Cookies and Christ, I'm fine with that. Because I really want to know it. So
I
hopefully
also
y'all feel
feel
the strain.
like I mean we're still, in the new stages of, our live format and different things. And, if we get more people to tune in and, they're craving it like, oh, this don't need to be at least bi-weekly or something. I mean, we gonna have there's seasons for everything. You know what I'm saying? Right now, y'all in a famine
Yeah,
season.
we might speed it up.
Yeah, if y'all tune in and y'all get with the go, we can go, but we don't want to overload y'all and ourselves because we do have other things going on as
Whole
well.
lives.
But
Yeah, whole
for
lives.
this, you make certain things a priority, and the reasoning behind this is to have the word of God in an easy to digest, relatable way, representation by somebody, so y'all can just talk to us. Because again, we not theological students or anything like that, or clergymen, so y'all can say the things that you probably won't be able to say to your pastor in the
And ask certain questions. We'll try to
put it up
research.
on the screen. You know what I'm saying? Like we here with y'all. So again, like right now it's once a month. As we grow and as we ebb and flow, it might change. And again, we do this for us as well as y'all. We get as much out of it as you guys do, if not more.
I think more. Just because I haven't. I gotta ask them.
Well, we get more out of it because Kelly gets to talk to me.
What did you learn from Joseph? From Joseph. I
Oh,
don't know. I wanted to also share that my favorite cookies are here. Yes, it's kind of empty sounding, but I will be warming them up in the microwave. That's what I do with my chip away, and then I dunk them in milk, and then I eat them. It's just that it's called Cookies and Christ, and sometimes we don't have cookies. So,
I'd be
but
happy.
we have to go on the trip. We want to take y'all on a field trip. We're gonna go to Louvain. I think that's how you say it. I think it's French. I don't speak French, but it's in Georgetown. If you don't know, we're in the DMV area, or we can go to Forestville Mall and get them snickerdoodles.
Did you hear Addison was closing down? Like,
I'm not going to speak that into the existence.
the cookie joint, like it was a whole thing on the Facebook, like a thread. It was a petition. Save the cookie place.
They have to, but I heard that there's the same spot in Forestville Mall. So,
Wow,
but
like
we gotta get a good snickerdoodle, and then we can get a good chocolate chip cookie. And it would be nice to do like a vlog and show y'all like the bottom halves of us. And right now it looks like I'm taller than Morgan, but that is so not the case.
I don't think you want people to see you standing next to.
It's okay.
Y'all
I'm
ever
funny.
see the movie Twins? Is that it?
With Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito.
That's us.
I feel the spirit telling me we need to end this.
It is 8 o'clock. Amen.
All right, people, it's been a joy. And if you don't see on the screen, if you haven't noticed on the screen, we have the next session will be on Job, which I used to actually call him Job, but it's Job 1 through 5. The more you know. And Morgan will be heading that, and I'm very excited about it. So, and our Bible is called the story of Job. Job is tested. That's a little.
We
I
will
think a
be
lot of people know
because
that.
it's November, and November is the best month.
It's our birthday month. Yay! All right, we gotta do something. All right, people. You gotta get better.
It's hard with the camera. I can't be.
I don't know what that status code means. What is code 401? Does that mean that I can't end my live?
Well, we still live, so
It says request failed. Request to end?
did you check and make sure it was up?
Hmm.
Yeah.
I can see it. It's still live. Hold on. Let me see. Can I do anything about that? Yeah, no say.
Can you just close your screen?
I could do that. I just want to see when it gets there if it's still. It's still going. All right, we're gonna have to do an old fashioned close, and I hope that it stays on. I don't know.
Don't stand up and let them see your unicorn pajamas. Then.
Man, I got on Tasmanian pajama bottoms with my. I have on my shirt though. Christian creative.
I have one shirt that says spiritual. One of my friends, he owns a Christian clothing
See it.
line called
See.
called what's it called?
Faith.
No, it's called
God.
God something.
I didn't see it. Stand up.
1 second. Uh, let me get the name.
Yeah, definitely still.
Oh, it's called Godly Affairs. That's what it's called.
Godly affairs.
Godly
And I'm
Affairs on Instagram.
going to stand up so we can see the shirt.
I can't, if I stand all the way up, I won't be able to see it. But it says spiritual.
Yeah. It has godly affairs on the shirt, and you
Well,
just
I don't look down at my chest.
but you should have. And mine is in my shop, and it's right here. It says I am a Christian creative, and it has like pink splatters, but there's a whole bunch of different shirts on there. And I'm coming out with some new ones. But I'm gonna shut down Be Live altogether since I can't just hit the stop button.
Bye, people. Thanks for staying for Be Live After Hours.
Bonus. All right.
We should put this on Patreon.
If I can cut it off,
Deleted footages.
it's gonna be what it is. All right. Let me just leave.
I'm gonna leave.